So thank you for joining me once more in the evening, 7 o'clock, to reflect and expand a little bit on the thought of the day and the prayer. So from last night, of course, in this country and of course many places around the world, a lockdown has occurred. Greater restrictions have been made on movements and freedom. This is a time to gather all your resources, all your strength, because many people, of course, are increasingly fearful given these measures. But of course, fear is not really what we think is appropriate in the Vedantic context. When we say it's not appropriate, we mean that there is really nothing to fear provided we have faith. The opposite of fear would be faith and trust. What should we trust in? It comes down to our basic philosophy that understands a oneness of being. Although, and the example of course is that if you have buildings, let's say skyscrapers in a city, and you set them against the sky, you will probably find, or it could be interpreted anyway, that the sky is carved up into triangles and spheres and squares and rectangles, but that's not the case. So what we find is there is an endless sky, and we should meditate on the sky as representative to us of the infinite being, the Lord who is the infinite invisible, expanding itself everywhere, the original meaning of Bra, the thing that infinitely expands. And that should remind us of the oneness and unity of existence. We are on the human level, on the organic level, on the level that is time-bound, space-bound, nothing more really than waves, appearing as physical waves, appearing as event waves, waves of scenes, and all these waves gather together induce corresponding waves in the mind that give it its interpretation. It is this, it is that. When we repeat these concepts time and time again and use our discernment, we find a fearless place. We find that there being one, there's no second to fear. Where is the second to fear? Our goal in Vedanta can be described as abhaya, that is fearlessness. And everywhere we look, when we look at the various representatives or representations in figure form of God, we find always in every religion with hand held up, this is the sign of abhaya, fear not, a sign of reassurance. So let us think about this and imbibe it in our very being, the fact that we have absolutely nothing to fear. We are always surrounded. We're always protected. We're always immersed in the divine. There is never a moment that we are far away from the divine. The divine wind of grace is always blowing, but always around us and always within us, beyond us. There is no place where it is not. On every level we'll find it. On the energetic level we find there is only one energy, the potential energy. On the physical, material basis, there is only one matter. The ancient scientists knew this. They called this one matter Agasha, equivalent to space also. Space and matter seem to be the same thing. And then prana, cosmic energy that moves and mobilizes everything. So whatever we think, we're entering waves into a pool of waves that has its effect everywhere. And therefore fearful waves will produce fear and fearful circumstances. Collectively, we have to assert the oneness of being. And so, our wisdom says that the equivalent of space remains. It is not carved up. It just seems to be like that. And we require reminding of this fact time and time again. This Just as the sky is not spoiled or stained by dark images set against it, so also the infinite invisible is not darkened or stained or effective or carved up or broken up by the apparently fragmented universe. What we find as a universe is nothing more than fragmented God. I know it looks like something different. It doesn't look like that. We don't feel that. But the art of spirituality, whose practical dimension is to overcome fear, that asserts time and time again that there is only this oneness, one without a second. We catch a clue of it in the dress rehearsal I mentioned last night as a dreamless sleep. And so too the one has made it seem that it does sport in a waking dream. This whole universe has the same characteristics of a dream. Events come and go, people come and go. They seem tangible to us because we're dealing grossness, material hardness, touched by gross material hardness, skin on skin, surface on surface. The objects of the senses naturally are recorded by the senses faithfully. And the mind then comes and makes some sense of it, just though as if it were a dream. Same characteristics we find there. But really, nothing to fear, since no one else is there except you, one without a second. We should say, you, O indivisible one, present everywhere. Thank you for your oneness. Let us be absorbed in this oneness and enjoy the bliss of this oneness. And once we orientate ourselves in this way, and then have a review and see what happened to this fear, we find it's gone. Fear is something that lies deep within us. It's a psychological aspect. Supposing we were able to take our deepest fear, there's a psychological process, you know. A scene is set up in your imagination, and some guiding voice takes us through a sinister forest where the shadows are beginning to look like real ghostly elements, threatening monsters. And there we imagine our greatest fear, or maybe even fears, looking like great monsters. And we are preconditioned to ask these questions. Who are you? What do you want of me? What is your name? How can I help you? How will we move forward? All these kinds of questions. And then we listen to these answers that come from deep within the psyche. And then what becomes of the monster nature? It disappears, it walks away, it shrugs its shoulders, and with head bowed in shame, disappears like a cartoon form. So in this way, all our fears will disappear when we stop our future orientation, when we sit quietly in this present moment, in pure being, and synchronize ourselves to this oneness, this unity of existence. What will we find? Nothing but peace, nothing but harmony. And then when we see the divisible aspect on the other side of all these people and places and events around us, those dear and loved ones, we can now, with a new kind of revaluation, spread this oneness, this peace that passeth the understanding everywhere. And this way we can be of some use. It doesn't matter if you're locked up in home. It doesn't matter if you have nowhere to go. The one thing that you can do, even if you're stuck in a cave, that every thought movement that you make, that is pure and full and free, that has a generosity of spirit, will make its transforming effect in this world. So with these few brief thoughts, let us now close our eyes, just relax a little bit. Let us put ourselves in the presence of the source of life, the source of light, the source of love. Just reflect on these things and then let the mind dive deep within in our meditation for this evening. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.